Every dawn, Amaris bled for her pack. Not in battle, not in sacrifice, anyone could see. She bled in silence, in a cold stone chamber beneath the forest floor, where no one could hear her scream. The ritual lasted exactly 7 minutes. 7 minutes of fire crawling through her veins while her blood dripped onto ancient runes, feeding the ward that kept her pack invisible to the world. 7 minutes that had aged her 10 years in 5. 7 minutes that were slowly killing her. But she couldn't stop. Because hidden among the Ashvale wolves was a secret worth dying for. Her younger brother Corvin, the last living Nightblood, a wolf whose very existence was punishable by death in every kingdom across the realm. So Amaris endured, day after day, year after year. She endured until her hands trembled constantly, until her hair grew streaked with white at 23, until the pack elders whispered that she wouldn't last another winter. Then the North Alpha King came. Severin of the Frost March had conquered half the continent. They said he was carved from glacier ice, beautiful and merciless, with pale eyes that seemed drained of their natural color. They said he'd never taken a mate because no woman could survive his coldness. He shouldn't have been able to find the Ashvale pack at all. The ward had held for generations, but he walked through their borders like the magic wasn't even there, his army at his back, and stopped directly in front of Amaris. "I'll take this one," he said. The pack erupted in confusion. Why would a king who could claim empresses want a broken, trembling woman from a hidden pack? His terms were simple. She would return with him to the Frost March as his contracted mate. She would share his bed until she produced an heir, and she would never, under any circumstances, ask him for love. What Amaris didn't understand was why those terms felt like mercy. What Severin didn't understand was that he'd just claimed the one woman whose secrets could destroy them both. The pain began like it always did, as a whisper. Amaris pressed her palms flat against the bloodstone altar, feeling the ancient carvings bite into her skin. The chamber beneath the great oak was cold and damp, lit only by a single torch that guttered in a draught she could never find the source of. She closed her eyes, drew a breath, and sliced her palm open with the ritual blade. The whisper became a roar. Fire flooded her veins, starting at the wound and spreading outward like cracks in ice. Her blood dripped onto the runes, and they drank it greedily, glowing faint amber as the ward renewed itself for another day. Amaris bit down on the leather strap between her teeth to keep from screaming. The sound would carry, even this deep underground, and no one could know except Corvin, who waited in the tunnel above, counting the seconds until she emerged. Her vision went white. Her legs buckled. But her hand stayed pressed to the stone because if she broke contact before the ritual completed, the ward would fall. 6 minutes. She counted them in heartbeats, in ragged breaths, in the tears that streamed silently down her cheeks. The 7th minute stretched into eternity. Then it was over. Amaris sagged against the altar, her palm already healing. But the internal damage lingered. It always did. The ritual was eating her from the inside, and she had perhaps 2 years left before it consumed her entirely. 2 years to find another solution. 2 years to keep her brother alive. The climb back to the surface took longer than it should have. By the time she emerged into the weak morning light, Corvin was pacing. 7 minutes and 43 seconds. His voice was tight with fear. "That's longer than yesterday." The ward needed more. Amaris pulled her sleeve down to cover her scarred palm. "It's been weakening lately." Corvin's jaw clenched. At 19, he was tall and broad-shouldered, with the dark hair and pale eyes that marked the Nightblood line. Those eyes could see in perfect darkness, could perceive heat signatures through walls, could, if he ever learned to control the power, drive a lesser wolf to madness with a single glance. The other kingdoms called his kind abominations. They'd hunted the Nightbloods for 3 centuries until only Corvin remained. hidden by Amaris's blood and pain. "Let me help," Corvin said. "My blood might work." "No. Night blood in the ward would be like a beacon. You'd be dead before sunset. And you'll be dead before winter if you keep this up." The words hung between them. Amaris had no argument because he was right. They walked back toward the village in silence. The Ashvale settlement was modest. 32 wolves living in wooden houses nestled between ancient oaks. Too small to matter, too hidden to threaten. But something felt wrong this morning. Amaris noticed it first in the sense. Anxiety, sharp and sour. Then she noticed the gathering near the central hall, voices raised in argument. Elder Vorian emerged from the crowd. He was a hard man with eyes that had never held warmth for Amaris. "There you are." His voice carried disdain. "While you were playing martyr in your little cave, something actually important happened." "What is it?" Vorian smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "The North Alpha King's army is at our border, and somehow, impossibly, they can see us." The ward had not fallen. Amaris knew this with absolute certainty because she would have felt it. The ward was intact. And yet, she stood at the edge of the village, staring at the tree line where she could see them. Rank upon rank of wolves in human form, armed and armored, surrounding the Ashvale territory like a noose waiting to tighten. "How?" Corvin breathed beside her. "The ward should make us invisible." Before Amaris could answer, she stepped forward, crossing the invisible boundary of the ward, stepping into the open ground between her pack and the army. The soldiers watched her approach with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. She was small, trembling, visibly exhausted. She looked like nothing. Then the ranks parted, and the North Alpha King stepped through. Amaris stopped breathing. Severin of the Frost March was tall, taller than any wolf she'd ever seen. His hair was black as a moonless night, falling past his shoulders in a straight curtain that framed a face of terrible, brutal beauty. And his eyes, pale gray, almost colorless, as if something had leached the life from them, looked at her and through her. He was beautiful the way a glacier was beautiful, cold and perfect, and utterly without mercy. His presence crashed over her like a wave, and Amaris felt her knees threaten to buckle. Every instinct screamed at her to submit, to bare her throat. She locked her trembling legs and stayed standing. Something flickered in those strange, washed-out eyes. Surprise, perhaps? "You walked out alone," he said. "Either very brave or very foolish. My pack has nothing worth your attention. We're farmers, outcasts. You assume I'm looking for something? Armies don't march for no reason." "No, they don't." He took a step closer. "I felt something 3 days ago. A disturbance. A ward that has hidden this territory for approximately 200 years. His gaze locked onto hers. It flickered. Just for a moment. Just long enough for me to see. Amaris's blood turned to ice. The ward hadn't fallen, but it had weakened. Just enough to be detected. "You smell like blood magic," he said quietly, circling her. "Old blood magic, the kind that requires sacrifice and pain, a great deal of pain." Amaris said nothing. "The ward is powered by your blood. You're the anchor." He stopped directly behind her. "Why would anyone do that to themselves? Why does it matter to you?" "Because whatever this pack is hiding is important enough that someone is willing to die for it." He circled back to face her. "That makes it my business." He raised one hand, and his cold fingers caught her chin, tilting her face up. The touch burned like frostbite, and she gasped. "Your hands," she whispered. "They're like ice." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the glacier. "Yes, they are." He released her and stepped back. "I'll take this one," Severin announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. The forest erupted in chaos, But Severin's eyes never left hers. You'll return with me to the Frost March as my contracted mate. No, I can't leave. If I go, the ward, my pack, will be granted my protection. No kingdom would dare attack a territory under my banner. Amaris stared at him, trying to find the trap. Why me? You could have anyone. Yes, I could. He didn't elaborate. I need to know your terms, she said finally. All of them. Severin smiled. Come with me, and I'll tell you everything. The North Alpha King's command tent was larger than the Ashvale Pack's central hall, and standing to the side, under guard but unharmed, was Corvin. Let him go, Amaris demanded. He has nothing to do with this. On the contrary, he's the reason for the ward, isn't he? Severin's gaze flicked between them. He's a nightblood. I can smell the power on him. Ice flooded her veins. He knew. Amaris stepped between her brother and the king. If you're going to execute him, execute me first. I'm the one who hid him. Severin studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a quiet sound that transformed his face entirely. I'm not going to execute anyone. Sit down. Amaris didn't move. I have just offered your pack my protection, Severin said, exasperation creeping into his voice. I have just offered you a position as my contracted mate. Let me explain my terms. Slowly, Amaris lowered herself into a chair. Corvin remained standing behind her. First, you will return with me to the Frost March as my contracted mate. In exchange, I will extend formal protection to the Ashvale Pack, including your brother. Despite what he is? The Nightblood purges were my grandfather's obsession, not mine. Then why claim me? Because I need an heir. The words were flat, clinical. You will give me a child. Beyond that, I require nothing from you. Amaris understood what he wasn't saying. He'd chosen her because she was nothing. No political connections, no powerful family. A transaction. Something that should have felt like an insult instead felt like relief. What about the ward? My banner will protect them? And if you die? If political winds shift? You negotiate like someone who's been betrayed before. I negotiate like someone who's been keeping her brother alive for 5 years. Silence fell. Then Severin leaned back. I will put it in writing. A formal treaty declaring the Ashvale Pack under my permanent protection, bound to my bloodline, not just my reign. Amaris blinked. That was more than she'd dared hope. Why would you agree to that? Because I want you to say yes. He stood, walking toward her. One more term, perhaps the most important. Here it was, the trap. I will never love you. The words hung in the air. This will be a marriage of contract only. I will treat you with respect. I will provide for you. But I will not pretend affection I don't feel. His jaw tightened. I am incapable of love. Physically, fundamentally incapable. Amaris stared up at him. You're incapable of love, and you're telling me this as a term. Because I don't want you to hope for something I can never provide. I accept your terms. The tent went silent. You accept, Severin repeated, confusion blooming across his features. A loveless marriage in exchange for my brother's safety? That's not a sacrifice. That's a mercy. You're a strange woman. I'm a woman who spent 5 years bleeding every morning to keep her brother alive. Cold indifference is a kindness compared to what I've known. Severin was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his advisors. Draft the contracts. We leave for the Frost March in 3 days. He paused. The Nightblood will accompany his sister to my court. Amaris couldn't speak. He was offering to bring Corvin with her. Why? She managed. Because I saw you step between him and an army without hesitation. His voice dropped. Anyone willing to die for someone deserves to keep them close. The journey to the Frost March took 11 days. 11 days of riding in a carriage warmer and more comfortable than any bed Amaris had ever slept in. 11 days of barely seeing the king who had claimed her, and 11 days of feeling the ward slowly dying. The connection pulled at her constantly now, a dull ache that spiked whenever she tried to sleep. On the 8th night, Amaris woke gasping, her palm burning. One of her ritual scars had split open, weeping blood onto her blankets. The ward was calling her back, demanding payment she could no longer give. She wrapped her hand and told no one. By the 11th day, when the Frostmarch castle emerged from the mountain mist, Amaris could barely stand. The castle was carved directly into the mountainside, a fortress of black stone and silver spires. Crowds had gathered along the road, all of them staring at the carriage that carried their king's mysterious new mate. "They're going to hate you," Corvin said quietly. "They already hate me." The carriage stopped. Amaris stepped down onto frozen ground, the cold hitting her like a physical blow. The great hall was vast and cold, lined with pillars of black marble. Hundreds of courtiers filled the space, and standing beside the throne was a woman Amaris hadn't seen before. Tall, raven-haired, with cruel beauty. She was his cousin, and until he took a mate, his only heir. "So this is her?" The woman descended from the dais, circling Amaris. "The little forest wolf who's convinced our king to break his vow of solitude. I expected something more impressive." "Lady Thessaly, that's enough." Severin's voice cut through the hall. "I'm simply welcoming your new mate, cousin." Thessaly stopped in front of Amaris. "The Frostmarch is not kind to weakness." "Then it's fortunate I'm not weak." Thessaly's eyes narrowed. "You're trembling. From the cold, not from you." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Thessaly leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He doesn't want a mate. He wants a broodmare. Once you've given him his heir, you'll be discarded." "Lady Thessaly." Severin's voice was colder now. "Step away from my mate." Severin descended from the dais, stopping before Amaris. His gaze dropped to her hidden hand. "You're injured. I can smell blood. Your blood specifically." His brow furrowed. "It smells wrong, like something is pulling at it." "The ward," Amaris thought with panic. "It's nothing. An old injury." He studied her for a long moment, then turned to address the court. "This woman is my contracted mate. Any insult to her is an insult to me. Any harm to her is treason." He extended his hand. His fingers were cold when she took them, cold enough to make her gasp, but his grip was gentle. "The ceremony will take place tomorrow. Tonight my mate will rest." When they reached a private corridor, Severin stopped. "Thessaly will make your life difficult. She's been positioning herself as my potential mate for years. Watch your back." "You sound almost concerned." "I am concerned. Your safety is a matter of political importance." "Of course. Political importance." "Your hand," he said again. "Let the healers look at it." "I will." That wasn't a suggestion. Before she could respond, he was gone. The binding ceremony was held at sunset, in a chamber carved entirely from ice. Amaris stood at the altar, shivering despite the fur-lined gown. Severin stood across from her, dressed in ceremonial black, his pale, washed-out eyes reflecting the ice light like mirrors. "Do you both enter this bond willingly?" the priest asked. "I do," Severin said flatly. Amaris thought of Corvin, safe in the castle. Thought of her pack, protected by a banner no enemy would challenge. "I do." "Then speak your vows." Severin took her hands. The cold of his touch bit through her gloves. "I claim you as mine, my mate, my partner, my queen. This I swear on my blood and my bond." Amaris drew a breath. "I claim you as mine, my mate, my partner, my king. This I swear on my blood and my bond." The priest produced a silver knife. "The blood binding." Severin drew the blade across his palm without hesitation. His blood steamed in the cold air, sluggish, as if partially frozen. He offered her the knife. Amaris's wrapped hand throbbed. The wound from the ward's pull was still fresh. If she cut now, he would see. She hesitated too long. Is something wrong? No. She took the knife and sliced her palm open, biting back a cry as pain lanced up her arm. Severin's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. He extended his bleeding hand, and Amaris pressed her palm against his. The cold was overwhelming. It felt like plunging her hand into a frozen lake. But beneath the cold, she felt something else. A spark of heat. A flicker of warmth buried deep inside him, reaching for her like a drowning man reaching for air. Then the moment passed, and Severin pulled away. It is done. You are bound. The wedding chamber was in the highest tower. A fire burned in the hearth, but it did little against the cold. Severin crossed to a side table and poured 2 glasses of wine. Drink. It will help with the nerves. I'm not afraid of you. Then what frightens you? Everything, she wanted to say. But most of all, the pulling sensation beneath her breastbone, the ward, still hungry, growing more insistent by the hour. I'm afraid of disappointing you, she said instead. What if my body is too damaged to give you an heir? Something shifted in his expression. You won't fail. How can you know that? Because you've never failed at anything that mattered to you. He stepped closer. I watched you face an army alone. You are not someone who fails. His hand rose, cold fingers brushing her cheek. The touch stung, but Amaris didn't pull away. You feel it too, she whispered. Don't you? The warmth underneath. Severin went rigid. Don't look for something that isn't there. But I felt it. During the binding, you felt what the bond made you feel. Whatever warmth you imagined, it doesn't exist. You're lying. For just a moment she saw it, raw and desperate and terrified. Then the ice slammed back into place. The consummation. We need to complete it. His touch was clinical at first, but as the night deepened, something shifted. His hands moved with careful patience, learning what made her breath catch. When she trembled, he paused. When she tensed, he gentled. You're so warm, he murmured against her neck. Like fire. Is that bad? No. His voice was rough. It's the best thing I've felt in years. The confession slipped out, raw and unguarded. He froze, as if realizing what he'd revealed. Amaris reached up and touched his face, pressing her palm against his cold cheek. Take what you need, she whispered. Something cracked in his expression. Then he kissed her, and the cold became fire. Afterward, as Amaris lay in the furs, the ward's pull hit her like a wave. She gasped, clutching her chest. What is it? Severin was already pulling away. Nothing. Just tired. But she could feel it. The ancient magic clawing at her from across the mountains. Without her daily sacrifice, it was starving. And it was getting angry. In the days that followed, Amaris learned the rhythms of the Frostmarch court. She learned that Lady Thessaly controlled most social machinations, that the servants whispered about her, that no one expected her to last, and she learned that Severin was avoiding her. He didn't come to her chambers that first night after the wedding, or the second, or the third. She caught glimpses of him at formal dinners, always at a distance. By the 5th day, her condition had deteriorated noticeably. The ward's pull was constant now, a pressure behind her ribs that never eased. Her hands shook so badly she could barely feed herself. And this morning, she'd found blood on her pillow. She was dying. And with each passing day, she felt the magic pulling harder. You look terrible, Corvin said from her doorway. Thank you. I'm serious. The staff is starting to notice. Let them notice. If Severin finds out you're dying, what? He'll care? Amaris pulled away. He's made it clear I'm nothing but a breeding contract. Before Corvin could respond, a servant arrived with a message. His Majesty requests your presence in his study, immediately. Severin stood by the window when she entered. Close the door. Amaris obeyed. You're dying. The words hit her like a blow. Don't. I can smell it. The blood magic, the decay. The ward is still connected to you, isn't it? Still draining you. Yes, she whispered. The connection can't be severed. Then destroy it. I can't. If the ward falls before your protection is established, I don't care about other kingdoms. He grabbed her shoulders, and the cold of his touch burned through her dress. I care about... He stopped. About what? About my heir. I won't let you die before you deliver it. The disappointment was crushing. Of course. Always the heir. I'm not pregnant yet. You've been avoiding me. Something flickered in his eyes. I know. Then why? Because being near you is dangerous. His grip tightened. Every moment I spend with you, I feel things I shouldn't feel. The cold inside me recedes when you're close, and that terrifies me more than you can understand. Why would warmth terrify you? Because warmth means feeling. Feeling means caring, and caring will kill me. I don't understand. No, you don't. He released her. Just let me help you. Let me find a way to sever the ward's connection. There isn't one. I've spent 5 years searching. Then I'll find another way. Why? Why do you care? I'm nothing to you. Severin went very still. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Amaris's breath caught. I lie awake remembering the warmth of your skin. I count the hours until I might see you, then stay away, because being near you is torture. His hands clenched. I was supposed to choose someone I could never care about, but instead I chose you, and I can't stop. Amaris moved toward him, pressing her palm against his cold cheek. Then don't stop. You don't understand what you're asking. Then help me understand. If I let myself love you, I will die. The words hung between them. My family is cursed. We cannot feel love without triggering it. The moment we acknowledge it, our hearts freeze and we die. He smiled sadly. Why do you think I'm so cold? It's not choice. It's survival. That's why you chose me. You thought you wouldn't fall. A foolish plan. You made me care with nothing but your voice and your courage. His hand covered hers. I was doomed the moment I saw you face my army. Then we'll break it. There must be a way. There isn't. Every king in my line has searched. Tears burned in Amaris's eyes. So what do we do? I don't know. I only know I can't watch you die from that ward. They held each other in silence. I'm falling in love with you, Amaris whispered. Don't. I can't help it. Neither can I. He cupped her face. And that terrifies me, because I look at you and I feel... His eyes went wide. His hand flew to his chest. Severin? Amaris grabbed his arms as he stumbled. What's wrong? He tried to speak, but no words came. His face had gone white, and frost was spreading across his cheeks. No, Amaris gasped. You didn't say it. You didn't finish. Severin's legs buckled. She caught him, lowering him to the floor as his body convulsed. Help! She screamed. Someone help! The last thing she saw before the guards burst in was Severin's eyes, fixed on her face with something that looked impossibly like love. Then they closed. The healers could do nothing. Amaris watched from the corner as they worked over Severin's unconscious form. His body temperature had dropped to levels that should have killed any wolf. Frost covered his chest, spreading slowly outward. The cold is magical, the head healer said. I don't have the skill to fight it. Then find someone who does. The healer hurried out, leaving Amaris alone with her dying mate. She crossed to the bed and took his hand. The cold burned, but she didn't let go. This is my fault, she whispered. I pushed you. I made you feel things. Severin didn't respond. His breathing was shallow, barely visible. The door opened behind her. They're saying he's dying. Corvin's voice was quiet. He is dying. Because of me. That's not true. It is. He has a curse. If any king in his line falls in love, they die. Her voice cracked. And he started to feel it. Corvin knelt beside her. You've spent 5 years bleeding for me. Maybe it's time someone sacrificed for you. What do you mean? I don't know yet. But I'm not going to let you lose him. By midnight, Amaris had made a decision. She sent Corvin away and began to speak to Severin's unconscious form. I need to tell you everything. Every secret. Because maybe if you knew the truth, you'd stop loving me. She took a shaking breath. The ward isn't just magic. It's me. My blood. My pain. My life force. Every morning for 5 years I've bled onto ancient runes. This is what I am. Not brave, just desperate. The frost didn't recede. I'm dying. I have been for years. 2 winters at most. That's why I agreed to your contract so easily. I thought I'd give you an heir and quietly fade away. Still nothing. I'm selfish. I let you care about me knowing I was going to leave you. So hate me. Hate me for lying. Let that save you. She pressed her forehead against his chest, sobbing. And then she felt it. A hand in her hair. Weak. Trembling. But real. You foolish woman. Amaris's head snapped up. Severin's eyes were open. You thought confessing that you've been dying for your brother would make me love you less? Severin, I love you more. His cold hand cupped her cheek. How could I not? But the curse. I know. The frost was spreading again. I don't have long. But I needed you to know. I chose right. Don't leave me. I'll find a way. I'll try. His voice was fading. But Amaris, promise me, if I don't survive, live anyway. His eyes closed. His body went rigid. The frost surged forward, covering his face. Severin! She shook him, but there was no response, and beneath her breastbone, a new sensation joined the ward's pull. Something fluttering, something alive, a child. She was carrying his child. That realization made her more determined than ever. I won't let you die, she whispered. I don't care what it costs. 1 week passed. 7 days of Amaris barely sleeping, searching for answers. The healers had stabilized Severin, but only barely. He was suspended between life and death. Lady Thessaly's visits had become increasingly pointed. He's not going to wake up. The curse has taken him. The kindest thing would be to let him go. The kindest thing would be for you to leave. Thessaly's eyes narrowed. You forget your place. And you forget yours. Until Severin is declared dead, I am his voice. Thessaly left, but the look she shot promised this wasn't over. That evening, an ancient curse breaker named Mordwin arrived from the eastern mountains. Ice curse, she said after examining Severin. Old magic, but something strange. Her eyes sharpened. Someone has been reinforcing it. What do you mean? Curses this old should weaken. This one is as strong as the day it was cast. Someone in this castle is feeding it. Amaris's blood ran cold. Can you break it? Blood magic can only be countered with blood magic, willing sacrifice from someone who loves him deeply enough to die for them. I would die for him. I know. But your blood is already bound to another magic. The ward has claimed you. You cannot give your life force while it still holds you. How do I free myself? The ward must be transferred. Or destroyed. If it's destroyed, my pack would be exposed. Mordwin shrugged. Blood magic always demands payment. After Mordwin left, Corvin appeared. Let me take the ward. No. The ritual would kill you. I'm a nightblood. My blood carries power I've never been allowed to use. Let me try. I won't sacrifice you. You're not sacrificing me. I'm choosing. His voice cracked. For 5 years you've bled for me. Let me do this. Before Amaris could respond, shouts erupted in the corridor. Metal clashed. They ran toward the noise and found chaos outside Severin's chambers. Guards were struggling with hooded figures, and at the center stood Lady Thessaly, a dagger in her hand. You were supposed to die, Thessaly spat. Both of you. What have you done? What my family has been doing for generations. Maintaining the curse. Her smile was vicious. My great-grandmother was the witch who cast it. We've kept it strong, waiting for a king to be foolish enough to love. Understanding crashed over Amaris. You've been feeding the curse. Of course. Severin was never supposed to fall in love, but then you came along and ruined everything. You wanted him. I would have kept him dancing on the edge forever. Devoted but never quite in love. When he died, the throne would pass to me as his closest living relative. She lunged. Corvin moved faster, grabbing her wrist and twisting until the dagger clattered to the floor. You can't stop it, Thessaly screamed as guards dragged her away. The curse is set. But Mordwin was already examining Severin again. The external reinforcement is gone. The curse is weakening. Still deadly, but no longer impossible to break. What do I need to do? Transfer the ward, free your blood, then give yourself to him. Amaris looked at Corvin. He nodded. The ritual began at midnight. Amaris knelt in a circle, Corvin across from her, their hands joined over a basin of her blood. Mordwin chanted in an ancient language, and the magic that had lived in Amaris's veins for 5 years began to writhe. The ward didn't want to leave. Pain exploded through her body. She screamed, but she didn't let go of Corvin's hands. Take it, she gasped. Take all of it. The moment the ward released her was like a tearing sensation. The ancient magic flowed into Corvin, and her brother gasped as power flooded through him, his spine arching, and silver light erupting from his eyes as the night blood within him rose to meet the ward. It worked, Mordwin breathed. The night blood is actually sustaining the ward. Corvin opened his eyes, silver-ringed and powerful. I can feel them. The pack. Everything. But there was no time to celebrate. Amaris could feel her freed blood singing with accumulated power. 5 years of sacrifice. Take me to Severin. Amaris pressed her palms against Severin's frozen chest, feeling the ice bite into her skin. Then she reached for the power inside her. It came roaring up like a river breaking through a dam. 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years of blood and pain. All of it channeled through her hands, pouring warmth and life and love into his frozen heart. The ice fought back. But Amaris had spent 5 years learning what sacrifice meant. I love you, she whispered. I love your coldness and your confusion. I love that you chose me when you could have had anyone. I love that you protected my brother and my pack when you owed me nothing. The ice cracked. I love that you warned me you couldn't love me, and then you did anyway. I love that you're the most powerful alpha on the continent and you're terrified of feeling things. The cracks spread. I love you, Severin of the Frost March, and I am not going to let you die. She poured everything she had into those words, the room filled with blinding golden light. And then the ice shattered. Amaris collapsed against his chest, completely spent. But she could hear something, a heartbeat. Strong and steady and alive. Arms wrapped around her. Warm arms. Amaris. His voice. The most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. She looked up into his eyes, and for the first time, they weren't pale gray. They were blue. Deep, warm blue. Like the curse had finally released its hold on every part of him. You're alive, she breathed. Thanks to you. His hand cupped her face, and his touch was warm. I've felt you pouring yourself into me. You should have died. I'm stubborn. You're miraculous. He kissed her, deep and warm. When he pulled back, there were tears on his cheeks. I've never felt warmth. Not once in my entire life. And now I feel everything. Is it overwhelming? Yes. He smiled, and it transformed his face completely. It's wonderful. Amaris took his hand and pressed it against her stomach. There's something else you should feel. His eyes widened. Yes. I realized during your coma. She smiled through her tears. We're going to have a child. Severin pulled her close, his whole body trembling with emotion he'd never been allowed to feel before. I love you, he said, the words coming easily now. Both of you. 9 months later. Spring had come to the Frost March. For the first time in recorded history, the eternal snows had begun to recede. Mountain streams ran free. Gardens bloomed where nothing had grown for centuries. Amaris stood on the castle balcony, their son Kaelin cradled in her arms. Born 2 weeks ago, he had his father's dark hair and her copper-brown eyes, and he had not inherited even a trace of cold. You're thinking too hard, Severin approached, wrapping his arms around them both. I'm thinking about how impossible this is, how we almost didn't have any of it. But we do. He kissed her temple. Thanks to you. Below, Corvin was crossing the courtyard with a group of young Nightbloods, freed from hiding by Severin's first decree as the thawed king. The ward still protected the Ashvale territory, but now it was a choice. Corvin maintained it easily, his Nightblood power turning the once deadly sacrifice into something sustainable. Thessaly remained in the dungeons, stripped of everything. Let her live and watch what she'd schemed against flourish without her. We saved each other, Amaris said softly. Severin pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to Kaelin's forehead, then to hers. We saved each other. And in the kingdom that was learning to thaw, surrounded by a family that was learning to grow, the Alpha King and his once hidden queen faced their future together. Warm at last. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it and would like to hear more stories like this, please subscribe and leave a comment letting me know what you thought. Your support means the world. Until next time.